recharge, refresh, restart. This is the Laura Coates Show on POTUS. Here's your host, Laura Coates.
Hey, welcome back to the Laura Coates Show right here on SiriusXM POTUS. I'm glad you're all with us. If you happen to get up a little bit late today, don't worry. We got your back. You can just go to the SiriusXM app and you can hear any of our interviews as well. Joining us now, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi out of Illinois' 8th Congressional District. He is also the ranking member of the Select Committee on the CCP Democrats. He joins us now. Welcome and good morning, Congressman. How are you?
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining me today. There's obviously a lot on your plate as a member of Congress these days, and a look ahead to January and February. There'll be even more work that is happening. But one committee that we're not hearing a whole lot about is the CCP and what's going on, the Select Committee on the CCP. There was a recent profile in Foreign Policy about the Select Committee on the CCP's bipartisan work so far, which is standing out in an otherwise divided Congress. What's the latest?
Well, we're actually really proud of the kind of bipartisan kind of problem-solving approach of the committee. I think that now that we've kind of tackled some of the security issues in an initial bipartisan report, especially regarding Taiwan, and also the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act and the Uyghur Genocide, we issued a second report. We are about to issue a third report, this time about economic recommendations, not only protecting our interests and our values, working with our partners in the Indo-Pacific region and elsewhere, but also upping our own game and investing in our own people and partnerships at home. And so looking forward to releasing that later this month, hopefully.
And just take a step back with me for a moment and talk to me about this actual committee. What are the goals of the committee, and why you feel there is the bipartisan buy-in?
Well, the goals of the committee are set forth in the legislation that authorized its creation roughly a year ago, and it commanded almost, I think, 370 votes. So a huge bipartisan piece of legislation that asked the committee to look at the technological, security, and economic risks associated with the competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. I'm going to call it the CCP. And, what do we do about them? And so I think that both Hakeem Jeffries and former Speaker McCarthy did a very good job of both selecting members who are serious and thoughtful about these issues, but also creating a little bit of a space where, the partisan issues of the day did not necessarily dominate the discussions of the committee. And so we've been able to operate, and I got to give also credit to Chairman Mike Gallagher for fostering that environment. And I think as a consequence, we've been, somewhat productive this year.
When you look at in contrast, frankly, maybe from the rest of what's happening on the in the House and all that has been going on in the otherwise divided Congress, I mean, these reports that you have put forth, is there a specific ask? Are there tangible deliverables coming from these reports? And if so, what are the next plans?
Yeah, so the reports actually recommend legislation that different committees of jurisdiction in the House need to pursue. Just to take one example, with regard to our 10 recommendations for Taiwan, the main thrust of the recommendations has to do with preventing war or open armed conflict with China. And so how do you do that? You help with equipping Taiwan with the means to defend itself and to deter aggression. In this economic report, we're going to be asking for various changes that invest in our workers, invest in our technology and our ability to innovate in next generation technologies like artificial intelligence and quantum computing. But also, we Democrats are pushing for immigration reforms to make it more possible to attract and retain the best and the brightest people necessary for us to win the competition of the future with the CCP. So some of those things have stalled in other parts of the House, and we're saying, look, you can't ignore them forever because, on their own merits, they should be pursued. But also, if we want to win the competition with the CCP, we're going to need to act to fix these problems.
There's a lot of concern that people have with the CCP and about the leverage economically that they hold, and I wonder if you can address that for the audience today in terms of that power dynamic. Is there a concern you have about the leverage the United States has over the CCP?
Yes, and specifically, to your first point, the CCP knows that it has leverage with regard to other actors in the world, including the United States. For instance, with regard to critical supply chains. One of the best examples of that is the supply chain of critical minerals necessary for instance, electric vehicles. The critical minerals, lithium and nickel and other cobalt and other types of elements that are essential for creating electric vehicle batteries, for instance, are mainly processed in China. And so as a consequence, if we, I think most of your listeners understand that we need to combat man-made climate change, and we need to go to an EV future eventually for our automobiles. But if we're going to do that, we're going to need to, be able to produce a lot of this stuff here at home. But if they are controlling those critical minerals, then we have a tougher time, making sure that we can onshore the production of these batteries and these vehicles.
Do you think, at a time when the American people are looking, obviously, again, the power of the purse, there are conversations right now about tying different aid to Israel, to Ukraine, to border security and beyond, the overwhelming need of both nations to have the support of the United States as well, and the humanitarian crises that are ongoing. I do wonder if the American electorate, and obviously those who represent them, is there the bandwidth to address all of these matters of foreign policy?
We have no choice. And I think that, it's kind of up to us to explain why these issues are related and how it's essential that we address all of them. I'll just take the CCP example as one compelling reason why we need to act on these issues. Xi Jinping, who's the paramount leader of the CCP and in China, is looking very carefully at how we handle Russia's criminal invasion of Ukraine. He's looking at also whether we act upon the recommendations of the administration for working with our partners in the Indo-Pacific region to combat aggression. Why? Because if our will to resist this type of aggression, for instance, Ukraine, wanes, then it almost acts as a signal to him that we will fold in any future aggression that he might commit in the Indo-Pacific region. And it might actually invite aggression against Taiwan. It might invite aggression against our other allies. We don't want that. And so that's why it's so important that we act now on this supplemental package.
If there is the relationship, I wonder if people always are understanding how there is the connective tissue between all of these things. The reports that are coming out, will be eager to see what the results are. And moving forward, please don't hesitate to come back to the show and keep us posted on all these very important matters. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you so much for your attention to these very important issues.
Thank you, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. We'll be right back after a quick break right here on SiriusXM POTUS. In a moment, we'll be joined by Congressman Pete Sessions.
This is POTUS.